Welcome back, Short Kings. Today's episode is directed to new PS5 owners. Imagine you just got a PS5 and a friend wants to come over and see it. What is the number one thing you boot up that shows off that this is truly a next-gen console instead of a more expensive, bulkier PS4? Or if you've recently switched teams to the winning side, what makes this better than an Xbox? Will you jump into the latest sports game? The shooter that looks the same on any system? Are you going to show off those 5% better graphics than last gen? Is that what you're excited about? Or are you going to load up a single-player game to show off those quick loading times? Well, in this exciting episode, we're going to show off just what the PS5 is capable of. After all, you did spend $500 on this thing. You want to see its potential, right? What exactly makes the PS5 next gen? What is this adaptive trigger thing I keep hearing about? Haptic feedback? Like on my phone? Gyro? What's that? Does it come with tzatziki sauce? We will answer all the questions, and the best part is you don't even have to download anything to show off the PS5's prowess. What if I told you that on your console storage right now is something that will open your eyes to your shiny new console's potential, and you've likely been ignoring it this whole time? It's free, and most people skip it not even knowing what it is. In the next few minutes, you're going to dive right in with me and see just how much PlayStation 5 kicks Astro's Playroom into the next gen. Wait, Astro's Playroom? Isn't that a kid's cartoony robot game? What are you talking about? This is not just a game, my friend. This is a tech demo meant to show off the true potential of your beast console. It's going to show off everything your new fancy controller does. Once you experience it, you'll think, dang, this truly does feel next gen. But first, a little history. You see, what happened was Sony accidentally created their own Mario a bit ago, and now they're in a bit too deep. People loved Astro so much, they demanded a full game. So Team Asobi was like, okay, you guys wanted it, I guess. Here you go. And it just won Game of the Year. Yes, this guy right here beat Elden Ring, Black Myth Wukong, Final Fantasy VII. What? Really? This game? Well, not exactly this game. Astro Bot won Game of the Year. Astro's Playroom is what's on your system. It's meant to be the first game you boot up when you get a PS5 because it was supposed to be just a PS5 tech demo tutorial. So this free 4-hour version was the closest thing we had to a full game until Astro Bot got released a couple months ago. And as those who've played this tech demo predicted, it won Game of the Year. Bruh. Listen, I'm not into these kind of games. I like sports games, driving games, RPGs, first-person shooters. I'm not going to waste my time with these little kids. Shh, it doesn't matter what you think. So if you're ready to put your judgment aside and climb into all these cool new features, zip up, my friend, and get ready to feel something. Warning. Astro's Playroom is best enjoyed as a surprise, but if you're still not convinced to go boot it up right now and are still watching this video, I'm going to spoil some things for you. Nothing story related though. We're going to talk about all the features of the DualSense controller. Astro does a much better job explaining it than I ever will, so I highly recommend that you give that game a try to experience it firsthand. The only tools I have are audio and video. I can show you things, I can tell you and explain things, but this tech demo will make you feel it. So if you don't care about spoilers, let's continue. Now, the first thing you notice is the DualSense controller looks a lot like the PS4 controller, but you've probably heard murmurs about this thing called adaptive triggers. Sounds like a neat marketing term, but what does it mean exactly? Well, to put it simply, when you press the L2, R2 buttons, they push back. What? But how? That's right, for 20 years, R2 has just been a button press. No different than pressing a key on a keyboard. But the one thing we console players have had is varying degrees of the same button, where we can push gas lightly or push gas hard, for example. But in this case, the DualSense goes a step extra beyond that. Just like driving a car, when you press on the gas, it's not just one button. It's varying degrees and intensities of pressing that button. And sometimes that button pushes back, creating resistance. The button pushes back, but how? Well, if you really want to know, let's get technical for a second and put on these nerdy glasses. Taking apart the controller, we can see that there is a classic DC motor with a solenoid at the tip of it. The motor spins the screw at different intensities to push back against your finger. There's also a potentiometer in the path of the trigger, so they're able to get information on the position of the haptic actuator. Still following? All you need to know is that developers have a choice of including this simple but brilliant and impressive tech by modulating the tension applied on the motor within the trigger. Recoil of a gun's trigger, how a car's gas pedal feels depending on the car and how hard you push it, or they can go to the route of returnal and rift apart and make the R2 two separate buttons. Press it halfway for normal fire, press it the whole way for alt fire. Same button, two actions. In Astro, you feel this when driving a rocket ship. You have two thrusters and how hard you press will give you a boost in different intensities. Not only that, but the thruster buttons themselves push back against your finger and vibrate locally. Yes, controllers vibrating is nothing new, but with a DualSense, the whole controller doesn't vibrate, only parts of it do. So in this case, the thrusters, which are the R2, L2 buttons, will push back on your fingers independently. So you will feel that on your left and right index fingers. There's a different resistance depending on what game you are playing and what gun you are holding and shooting. It's something you just have to feel for yourself in order to understand it, but I'll try explaining it in a non-tech nerd mumbo-jumbo way. Imagine pulling back on a bow and feeling the bowstring's tension getting tighter and tighter, and that satisfaction you get from letting it go. Now compare this feeling with everything else. R2 is just another button. Here, it's not a vibration, but an incrementally increasing resistance that makes you feel like you're actually drawing a real bow. Or imagine you're in a shooter and you feel the trigger recoil smacking back against your finger as you shoot in auto mode. Each gun feels different because the kickback is different. Imagine what a sniper feels like versus an SMG or a silenced pistol. For 20 years, the shoot button has been just a button, but this truly feels next gen when it's in your hands. It's immersion down to your fingertips, literally. Haptics. The next thing you've probably heard about is haptic feedback. Do you know when you get a new phone and you type on it and it vibrates ever so slightly and makes those noises to let you know that you've pressed the key? No? You turned that off? Good. Well, that was the baby version of this. Now, if you've ever grabbed a controller the last 25 years, ever since the N64, you know what this is. The Rumble Pack? Yes, my other system shakes as well. It's nothing new. Vibrations, whoop-de-doo. But this haptic feedback isn't about vibrating the whole controller with a rotating magnet. So inside the PS4 controller, there is a motor with a weight that spins, creating a very crude vibration. This has been around since the Rumble Pack. The PS5's next-gen tech uses voice coil actuators to deliver the vibrations instead. This is the same tech that makes speakers vibrate and create a dynamic sound. But instead of the loud bass rumble we get at concerts, this is a much smaller, localized movement that is just millimeters apart. With the DualSense, as implemented in this cartoony robot game, you will feel every footstep and it feels different depending on what you're stepping on. Walking on grass feels different than walking on metal, which feels different than walking on glass. My favorite moment was skating on ice. I can't even describe how this feels. You just gotta try it. Be like, ooh, that's kind of cool. My personal favorite implementation of this is when it rains in games. You feel these tiny little drops on your controller, tiny little clicks all over. This isn't just a rumble, it's revolutionary. Now, this may seem like a gimmick that you're quick to turn off, but when other studios implement this, it becomes a hack. Listen. I was playing Warzone with my friend, and this guy was looking for us. Now, we both have 3D headphones, which helped a lot, but I was able to tell exactly where he was because I could feel it. My Xbox friend asked, "What do you mean you can feel where he is?" I literally felt his footsteps from the left side of my controller going to the right side of the controller. I knew which part of the room he was in because I could feel him with my hand. This tech, paired with the 3D headphones, gives you an incredible edge, especially against those poor souls that play with the sound coming out of their TVs. You're playing 4D chess and they're still playing checkers. So when Astro walks on sand, yes, the footprints are cool and dynamic, but you also feel that. It's like your controller is speaking another language and communicating directly with your hands. This is some Ready Player One tech in the making. Imagine wearing a vest in the future, or haptic shoes, and feeling everything. More gamers would be touching grass, that's for sure. My favorite gaming moment of the last decade was this right here. This stupid little section in a silly little kids game. I'm playing as a ball that's rolling around. I hit some rocky terrain and get stuck in the mud. This seems so dumb. Why was this my favorite gaming moment of the entire decade? Well, let's rewind a little bit. Back in 2008, I was all about this future technology and couldn't wait to get my hands on it. There was this thing at the time called the Novant Falcon. This thing looked straight out of Portal and Aperture Science. There's still some old footage floating around, and those who had their nose on the latest tech thought this would for sure catch on and be the future of gaming.
You shut that thing. Ooh, these are feeling really like drawers.
I can feel the floor.
This was back when the Wii was a big hit, so the next logical step was to feel things, and then nothing. Crickets. Well, fast forward to me playing Astro's Playroom and having no idea what I was about to walk into. I was there. I felt it. At that moment, I felt the game with my hands. I felt the texture of rocks, the texture of mud. Thankfully, I never did end up ordering this thing, but some who did still swear by it and wonder why it never caught on. But here I was on a regular PlayStation holding a seemingly regular controller, and I was feeling with my hands the texture of the virtual world. Now, before you get too excited, the disappointing thing is very few developers will actually take advantage of this and other features mentioned in this video because they don't want to release exclusives, and that includes Sony. They want games to be available on all systems so they can make the most amount of money. They're not going to dive into this next-gen tech just to satisfy the niche PS5 controller holders. And again, that goes the same for PlayStation exclusives themselves. Very few games, even now, are getting released just for the PS5. Almost everything is still getting released on the base PS4, even though they just released PS5 Pro. Were PS3 games still getting released when the PS4 Pro got dropped halfway through the PS4 cycle? Are we really that slow this decade? So after playing Astro and experiencing things like this firsthand, you'll soon realize you'll feel very little outside of this experience. Returnal and Rift Apart are one of the only games that I have played that have even attempted to use these exclusive features. Everything else, every game else, just feels like a shinier PS4 game with better loading times. We could be living in the future right now, but you guys aren't ready. But your kids will love this stuff. So those two new features alone will make you feel the hype of next gen. There's more, but you're soon going to feel like you bought a Ferrari and you're stuck in second gear, just coasting along because not everyone else can keep up. It would be unfair for the competition to use this potential right here. You're going to be a little jaded after experiencing this in Astro's Playroom. Gyro. The third feature has been around for a while and it barely gets used. It's gyro controls. 6-axis, yes, just like the Wii, when you physically move your controller in your 3D world, the controller tracks that with motion sensors. When the PS3 originally dropped at its insanely high price, not a lot of people were lucky enough to grab it. The title it came with was Heavenly Sword. I literally played this at a friend's house. I think it was a house party or the day after a house party, and I sat there for 5 or how many ever hours and played the whole game from start to finish. Remember the Wii and the Guitar Hero days where you and your friends would all just sit in a room and watch each other play video games? One of the key features that the trailer for this game boasted about was that it gave you 6-axis controls. And with this 6-axis controls, you could physically move your PS3 controller, and the arrows that you shot could be manipulated in the air by rotating your controllers around. This was so cool back in the day, and then barely any other game used that feature. PS3, PS4, PS5, like where did that feature go? I know it's there. Astro turns this feature into a fun minigame, where in one instance you're a rocket ship on your way to Mars on a collision course, and the next moment you're a monkey that's climbing. How do you reach with your left and right hand? Well, you tilt. Yes, you can control the monkey's hands by tilting your whole entire controller. Some racing games use this just like the Wii did. Some shooting games use this. Warzone surprisingly has a pretty robust menu option for gyro controls. It bridges the gap to keyboard and mouse players. Like seriously, if you haven't tried this, it takes a lot of getting used to, and it's quite the learning curve, but the movements, when you get used to them, are insanely snappy and accurate if you get good. Personally, I use this for Power Wash Simulator for a unique one-handed gaming experience. It was a really intuitive game to have this feature. It almost felt like VR. It was nice because I'd be gaming with one hand, and with the other hand, I'd be like on my phone or eating something. Gyro was great for turn your brain off kind of games like these. The next few features are a bit more common and less groundbreaking, but you still gotta talk about them. TrackPad. Yeah, this next one is a weird one, and you might know it already if coming from the PS4, but I've given the controllers to a few guests over the last few months, and they are wowed by it when the game asks you to do it. Yes, the top of the controller is a trackpad. Now, this is barely used in games, but in Astro, they turn it into a full thing. Let's go back to this ball right here. I know you can't see it, but I'm furiously gliding my index finger left and right to keep the ball in balance. And this is where that magical moment happened. The mud and the rocks that brought me so much joy happened when I was using the trackpad to control the ball. Now, truth be told, this trackpad button is usually the map button. Yes, it's also a button. You can press the whole trackpad inwards and it clicks like a button. The swiping features are almost never used. Although going forward, whenever you're forced to type something, you don't have to use that awful TV remote control asking you to enter your email method. Just swipe around like you would on your phone and you'll type a lot faster. Speakers. Now, this has been around for a while, but if you didn't already know, there are speakers built into the controller itself. Usually, this is more annoying than useful, but I've seen some games implement this in a very unique way. In Judgment, I think, whenever I received a phone call and my character was holding it, the other voice came through the controller. Wait, I think this was actually Ghostwire Tokyo. Maybe it was both. Yeah, it was definitely Ghostwire Tokyo because the other voice was a ghost and it gave me this weird, the voice is behind you feeling. It was neat, but a little annoying because I thought I was being coy and quiet with the headphones. Meanwhile, it sounded like I was on speakerphone with a Japanese man. I would never use this to actually hear the game itself, but it's kind of neat to hear a few chimes here and there coming through the controller. Mic. Speakers on a controller is not a new thing, but do you know what this is? A microphone. Yes, that's right. This is a full speaker and microphone combo right on your controller. Astro only really uses this feature once, and it skips it if you don't have the proper inputs defaulted. So before you start the level, set your mic to your controller's mic and the controller's speakers. And if you do, this one neat moment comes up where there's a pinwheel. And it will not tell you what to do if you don't have these inputs defaulted. But if you do set your mic to the controller's mic, Astro's Playroom will ask you to blow into the DualSense. Yes, because there's a microphone, it can sense the intensity of the wind that you are pushing with your lips, and that intensity will determine how fast the pinwheel moves. This was another funny moment when introducing the PS5 to friends who wanted to try it. They loved Astro's Playroom so far, and when the pinwheel showed up, they just didn't know what to do. They just stood there like, what? And then the prompt showed up showing a character blowing into the microphone. They loudly exclaimed, "What?" So what this means is that if you're ever gaming without a headset and you really need to communicate, you can talk to your teammates through the controller as a last resort. But important to note, don't just leave this feature on for all of our sakes. See this little button here? This mutes everything, the mic, the speakers. So if you've ever wanted to be extra silent, just make sure this little light is on, because you don't want to embarrass yourself and have the game recording every single thing you do when you don't even know that there's a microphone right in front of you. The share button. Now here's the most useful thing for me personally, and part of the reason I even started this channel. On the PS4, whenever you press the share button, you could record the last 5 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever you had it set defaulted to. If something cool happened in the last 30 seconds, you'd have to go back to that 5-minute clip you just recorded and edit it just to show the last 40 seconds and then save it again as a new clip. Also, you had to do this after you exited the game. With the DualSense and the PS5, when you hit the share button, you can choose after the fact how long of a video you want to save. So if something cool happened in only the last 10 seconds, you can choose only save the last 15 seconds. And the best part is, you can view these game clips while you're still in the game. This is huge for remembering things. Like, I use it as a little cheat code. This is huge for in the games, and it helps you so much. Like, for example, if you ever see like a map or a code to a safe somewhere and you don't really remember what it was, you can choose to screenshot this. So as you watch more videos of mine, I hope you appreciate just how much of my gameplay I record, because without them, it would just be my sexy voice. You can also share your screen in your party chat or even stream on Twitch right from your console. And you don't even need a mic because it's built into the controller. It's a very lo-fi way of streaming, but it's totally doable. I did it and it totally works. The final thing I want to talk about is game help. This is a little bit of a weird one, but hear me out. Have you ever played a game, got stuck, and then you'd have to resort to looking for the solution on YouTube, watching someone else's gameplay, hoping they reach the same section? Well, in game help, what happens, if the game supports it, is they show you a video of what you're supposed to do. Like, it's literally built into the game itself. You don't have to go to YouTube. But if you do, and it's an older game, this blew my mind when I first got the PS5. I was playing Batman Arkham Knight, and yes, I was stuck on the Riddler trophies. Do you know what I did? I split my PS5 screen in half and had a YouTube video playing in one half, and I was gaming on the other side, playing along and collecting those stupid green question marks. This is huge, and it makes you rely less on your phone. So I personally used it to help me with the game, but you could totally use it for like a podcast or like a movie. You can do whatever you want. Just watch YouTube and play PlayStation at the same time on the same screen. You can literally be watching this video as you're gaming on your PlayStation. If you are doing that, please comment below so I know that someone actually pulled it off. Oh, I forgot one more thing. Another cool side feature. This one is rarely talked about, but the color of the Lightbar. Sometimes this is used to indicate teams. For me, it was really helpful when playing Rocket League. Sometimes my car is not quite blue or orange, so it's kind of hard to tell what team you are in. So I look at the controller, and the controller is shining in blue or orange. If it's in blue, I know I'm team blue, even though my car is like gold. Other games like Resident Evil 2 that I'm playing right now, and I recommend you do because it's leaving next month, as I predicted, the light bar will indicate your health. Green for good, yellow for, ooh, you just got hit, and red for, you need to go find some plants. When I was playing Borderlands 3, the light bar let me know what kind of gun I had. Green for toxic bullets, blue for ice or electricity, and red for fire, and so on. This feature is barely used or noticed, but I thought I'd bring up the moments that have made a difference for me personally. Anyways, let's get back to the game. So if you're new to PlayStation, you'll have the best fun 4 hours just jumping around and platforming. But if you're a PlayStation fan, there is so much fan service in this game. They reference almost every other franchise ever since the PS1. The coins are PlayStation. The things you jump on are PlayStation. Even the unlockables, guess what they are? Yes, they're PlayStation peripherals. It is a love letter to PlayStation and its fans, and as soon as its 4-hour runtime is over, you'll want more. And for 2 years, we couldn't do anything about it. But now, they released an actual Astro Bot game. I wonder how long it'll be before it comes to PS Plus. I want to say like 2027. It did just win Game of the Year, so they're going to be milking it for a while. Or maybe, hear me out, selling PS5's The Astrobot version by 2025. Oh yeah, I didn't even get to mention the music of this game. The GPU song is the boppiest beat I've ever heard in games in a long time. So let's wrap this up. The next time you have a friend coming over wanting to test out your expensive new next-gen console, don't be afraid of the kids game. Give them a next-gen experience with Astro's Playroom. This should be your #1 game you should play when you get a PlayStation 5. Everything else is an inferior experience. Don't let your favorite genre cloud your judgment. It is hands down the best game to throw someone into. A seasoned vet or a complete noob. They'll get right into it. Sony didn't just create a controller. They created an immersive experience trying to trick your brain into believing that you're actually in this virtual world. Remember when we went from 2D to 3D? How big of a jump that was with Super Mario? Well, now we have a new dimension, the sense of touch. Does that mean we're jumping into 4D? I don't know. Let me know what you think. Did you enjoy Astro's Playroom when you first played it? Or have you not played it yet? Let me know below what other games have taken advantage of these features. I haven't played a lot of new games because I've only been playing games on PS Plus Extra, so I'm assuming Spider-Man 2 at least takes advantage of some of these features. But what other games have taken advantage of the features that I mentioned? Let me know which games I missed, because I haven't played them all. What has been your favorite PS5 moment so far? What moment truly made it feel like a next-gen experience that was worth all the money you spent on it? I hope you enjoyed this video and got a PS5 for Christmas if you didn't have one already. Stick around if you want to know more about it. We do Tech Tuesdays every Tuesdays, and every weekend we drop a video essay like this. So until next time, be a friend and I'll see you again.